weapons. They also detained a new suspect, Church Calvin Lester. He, White Miller Tollett, Lee Walker, and Ulysses Walling were arraigned on charges of first-degree murder.
But now, May was well respected and well thought of in that area. And of course, the tale went around that May had called them and told them that the job had been done the next morning. But now, that's hearsay, you know. But they arrested her and some more local people, but they didn't have anything on them and they turned them loose.
The 9-day trial commenced on February 22, 1938. The courthouse was overcrowded and outside people waited to hear the proceedings. Ulysses testified that he drank moonshine all day and had passed out halfway through the trip to Hampton. By the time they were in Carter County, he was ill. When the car stopped in front of the Gouge home, he crawled into the closest ditch and vomited. He denied seeing anyone use dynamite. Church Lester testified that his confession had been extracted under torture. He said that he had been pushed into a hot stove and had been abused by 6 policemen. Witnesses Homer Creek and Perry Thurman backed up his alibi of spending the night at Greer Hotel. As soon as they left the stand, Sheriff Moreland arrested them both for perjury. T.Y. Swafford went on record that suspect White Miller was with him the night in question and was also arrested for perjury.
Now there's another thing in this story that I'm not sure about, but Howard Hazelwood, he worked for Gouge. I don't know if he worked at the service station or at the High Cliff, but he was supposed to be a witness for him. Well, the train ran over him and cut him in two, and Sheriff Moreland said that he was dead when he was put on the tracks, that he was pulled through the grass, that he could see where he was pulled through the grass.
After deliberation, all defendants were found guilty. Judge Ben Allen sentenced the men. 29-year-old White Miller Tollett and 44-year-old Church Calvin Lester were given the death penalty. This was the first time such a sentence had been passed in Carter County. 37-year-old Craig Tollett, whom authorities still suspected of being the mastermind of the outfit, was found not guilty. Before he could leave the courtroom, however, Sheriff Moreland arrested him on the murder of one of the other children. Due to lack of evidence, however, charges were later dropped. He returned to Pikeville and was labeled a coward. After all he'd been through, it's no surprise that Harmon Gouge was found not guilty when the murder trial for Arnold Tollett was finally held April 13, 1938. The jury had not even deliberated for an hour. White Tollett's appeal to Tennessee Supreme Court was denied, and he was scheduled to die in the electric chair January 11, 1939. His last meal consisted of a fried chicken dinner and pumpkin pie dessert. Church took death into his own hands, or so it seemed. His body was found hanging from his cell March 17, 1939. It appeared he'd taken his own life sometime between lunch and dinner. After closer inspection, they found his hands were tied behind his back. There were no other prisoners in the cell at the time. Even after being confronted by the questionable scene, Coroner Porter Nave ruled it a suicide. Church Calvin Lester's remains were transported back to his native Bledsoe County. Between 700 and 800 mourners came to pay their last respects as he was buried in the Lester family cemetery. Details of the crime and subsequent trial became available to a new generation with the publication of Moonshine Man, The Life of Church Lester, second in the Bloody Bledsoe series by Pikeville native Thomas Swafford.
I started out with my Swafford ancestors, and just writing about my family and the genealogy and that type of thing. And in there I put some of the bad stuff, some of the, just a few killings, because my uncles were, I had 2 uncles that were killed. So I put that in there. But when I got finished with that, I got people telling me about the Swofford-Tulloch feud, and so I just decided to tackle that book, the Swofford-Tulloch feud, which had its genesis in the Civil War. I finished that book, and then I went to Church Lester because I'm getting to hear so many stories about the Church Lester and the crime of the century in Carter County. So it just kept on going, and from there, and then I realized that this was a Bloody Bledsoe type theme, and in retrospect, I call the Swofford-Tulloch feud the first of the series, Church Lester the second of the series, then the Jim Hamilton, which I just released late last year, the third in the Bloody Bledsoe series.